Want to reclaim your personal data, protecting you from identity thefts, hacks, or worse? Then try Incogni and get a 60% discount on an annual subscription when you use offer code SKILLUP at incogni.com/skillup. Click below to get started or stick around to the end of the video to learn more.
Dispatch is the debut title from Ad Hoc Studio. This is a new developer formed by a bunch of industry vets, including former Telltale talent, who now return to the fold with a new episodic narrative adventure. I'll say up front that I only had access to episodes 1 to 4 in what is an 8-episode series, and I'm only allowed to show gameplay and talk specifics about the first 2 episodes, so consider this more of a review in progress or first impressions, rather than a comprehensive review. In that spirit, I'll keep this intro brief and say that so far, I'm enjoying Dispatch, particularly as someone that loved games like The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us, that eats up anything superhero related across games, films, shows, and anime. But I don't just like this because I was predisposed to it. In fact, I was a little put off by its humor at times, and the gameplay component feels a touch phoned in, such that I actually wasn't sure how to feel about Dispatch after putting it down. But it comes down to just one question: do I look forward to sitting through another 4 episodes of this thing? And the answer is yes. The animation in Dispatch is so good that you often forget you're playing a video game until a dialogue choice or a QuickTime event pops up. It's also got an interesting spin on the superhero story, and characters that are, for the most part, both well written and voice acted. Not least of which, its leading man. So let's talk about him first.
I'm not telling you you loser!
See, this is more like how I thought this would be.
I hope Shroud kills you just like he killed your father. I hope he spanks your little daddy as you to death, you hear me?
Dispatch follows the story of Mecha Man, aka Robert Robertson, whose name is obviously a clever play on the fact that those with alliterative names seem to be destined to become heroes, and yet Robertson was born with no such powers, instead reliant on a mech suit passed down his family line, now out of commission after an unfortunate incident. Following his fall from grace, he searches for a new sense of purpose and lands a position as a dispatcher at a superhero agency, where he also finds himself charged with training a team of former villains to become the next generation of superheroes. It's a somewhat cliche setup in that it's very much channeling those many sport films where a former pro finds himself coaching a hopeless team with an ulterior motive, but actually they end up winning and the real reward was right under his nose. I've only played half of this story and I feel like I can confidently predict exactly where it'll end up, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. I've always found these kinds of team-building underdog stories quite endearing, and we've never seen it explored through the superhero lens in quite this way. Robertson really is the star of the show here, in more ways than one. Firstly, I have to give a shout out to Breaking Bad's Aaron Paul for his voice performance here. He is killing it. He nails that sort of dry energy you'd expect from a guy worn down after a lifetime of bad breaks, yet beneath that is the quiet determination of someone with nothing left to lose.
I need to be around them. I need them to see I'm all in, and they need to match that energy.
Some tough love.
The only kind I know.
Helps that Aaron Paul was given great material to work with, because Robertson's also very tightly written. He's got a lot going on, between his complicated relationship with his father, to his money problems, to his self-worth being tied to his job, and it doesn't feel like you're being hit over the head repeatedly with these things. They're only surfaced in the occasional line, should you choose to do so, only to then be quickly swept under the rug to avoid being probed further. I think everyone will be able to find a part of themselves within Robertson, and that's made it really easy to buy into his struggles and become invested in his journey. But as much as he's got his own defined personality and motivations, there's also room enough in his character that you can imprint your own personality upon him with the dialogue choices, and it somehow never feels out of place. Want him to have a short fuse and lash out at every opportunity? You can do that. Want him to instead suppress his frustrations? You can do that too. Striking that balance of being both a relatable protagonist with his own trajectory and one that you feel like you can have a hand in shaping, I think that's key for a game like this, and certainly not an easy needle to thread, but Ad Hoc Studios have done so here.
Most heroes avenge their family. You did the opposite. You killed their legacy. How disappointed would your dad be if he were here right now? Your father, your grandfather, they must be rolling over in their graves.
I think he'd be proud, because I'm alive.
I've harped on my praise for Robertson because he's definitely the most fleshed out character so far, but most of the supporting cast aren't bad either. There's Chase, voiced by Jeffrey Wright, who's both Robertson's close friend and mentor, and they've got some great banter between them. He's also got quite an interesting story in that he's a speedster who realized too late that he aged faster every time he used his powers, so that's left him with his own baggage, yet he masks it behind his sense of humor.
I'm so sorry, Chase.
Hey, if I feel another ounce of pity from you, I will run you over in a parking lot and say it was an accident. They'll believe me because it looks like I'm wearing diapers.
Someone you'll often touch base with, perhaps in the literal sense down the road, is Blonde Blazer, voiced by Erin Yvette, who's been involved in a number of previous Telltale games. Armed with charming optimism, she's the one who recruits Robertson to the program, hopeful that he has more to offer to the world than just his mech suit.
Meet me at the SDN offices tomorrow. I'm not done saving you yet.
There's also Royd, who, he's just a legend, man. Like, love this dude.
You gonna wash before you do that?
Nah, bro, I never touch nothing. Just touch my pants and underwear only. Even for shake, I just do like this.
Can you show me again? I don't think I got it.
I will say though, I am a little less enthusiastic about everyone else so far, such as the rebel without a cause in Vizigal, voiced by the one and only Laura Bailey, who's just as brilliant here as she is in like the 500 other things she's in. That's no exaggeration, by the way, I looked it up. Vizigal is the first of the ex-villain team that Robertson meets, and right off the rip, she's a lot.
Well, I'm wet. I see why you like him. Look at that trip. What does that look? Best Buy Fight Club? Fucking hot.
She has an immediate fierceness and brashness that was at first off-putting, but it did make me curious as to what trauma she might be harboring beneath it all. I was keen to chip away at that, to slowly learn more as our relationship grew, or indeed to not learn anything of it should I make the wrong decisions. Was kind of disappointed then to find that she just sort of blurts out why she is that way, and I can't talk specifics, but the reason given feels a bit flimsy. I'm hoping there's a lot more to it than she's letting on at the moment. I do think she's interesting in the way that she sort of represents the yin to Robertson's yang, someone born with powers but lacks the desire to be a hero, versus Robertson who's powerless and yearns to be one again. For that reason, she is beginning to grow on me, though I think she still just falls too much into that broody teenage stereotype, even though she's definitely not a teenager, I'll say that much. She also unfortunately doesn't stand out as much as she could because the rest of the team are kind of just facsimiles of her. They're all just kind of dicks for seemingly little reason, forming a band of misfits behaving like teenagers that Robertson's forced to parent. At the moment, they're mainly written to service the comedy, and the comedy in this game is... I don't want to say it's bad, but it's definitely hit or miss. There are some great moments and jokes that do really land and did get a laugh out of me, particularly in the first 2 episodes.
He's from... I want to say...
Florida.
Florida! Of course. Florida man over there. Hey, easy on the bath salts.
That was one guy.
I would say a lot of the time though, the comedy leans very heavily on profanity and sex jokes. Like, honest to God, I've never heard so many F-bombs in such a short span of time. And yeah, it is funny at first, but it's so unrelenting that it starts to feel a bit juvenile after a time, especially if you're sitting through multiple episodes in one sitting like I was. It also often feels like it's a little forced, as if it's constantly trying to prove that despite its cartoony art style, this is a grown-up show for grown-ups. Like the sex jokes especially. I don't have a problem with them because I'm a prude, it's just that they feel really awkwardly set up most of the time.
Just a plain-ass glazed donut. You happy?
Not as happy as you with that glaze all over you, huh? You slapped that donut around on your face a little before you put it in your mouth, huh?
Yep, you got me. I love gobbling on hot, sloppy donuts. Love them from my mouth to my butt.
So yeah, I currently have mixed feelings on the writing. When it's focused on its core characters and there's an even balance between the drama and the comedy, it's fantastic. Thankfully, that is the case most of the time, but there were many occasions where it does lean too hard on the lowbrow humor that I was, dare I say, cringing. I am, however, willing to give it some grace, seeing as I haven't experienced the whole story yet. My hope is that later episodes cool down on the comedy as the narrative heats up. Even in its weakest moments though, Dispatch is always a joy to watch on account of its animation. It's very appropriately taking inspiration from 2D superhero shows like Young Justice or Invincible and translating that to 3D. There are a lot of shows I've watched that have tried to pull off this look, if something like Dragon Prince come to mind, but I actually think Dispatch is like the best version of it I've seen. There's no jarring frame rate shenanigans going on, no off-putting low-res backgrounds with different shading. It's all incredibly crisp, clean, and consistent. Not to diminish the works of Telltale either, but the animation in their games often felt a little stiff, giving them a distinctly video gamey look, whereas that's just not a thing here. Dispatch is a significant step up in both its animation and framing, such that most of the time, it just feels like you're straight up watching a high-budget animated series.
Be careful.
I got this, Lieutenant Dan. Never mind.
Dispatch isn't just its story though. Ad Hoc have actually tried to inject a little more video game into this outside of the usual choice consequence stuff, and it's okay. How this works is that each episode takes place over the course of a day, during which you'll have a morning and afternoon shift of dispatch work. This takes the form of a simple management game housed within this one menu where jobs pop up around the city, you read what the job entails, and then try to assign the right heroes to it to maximize your chance at success. So for example, if a job says it'll require sweet talking, you want to choose a hero with high charisma, while a job that involves fighting probably needs someone with high strength, that sort of thing. Each completed job gives that character XP toward level ups that let you put points into the stats, and they also each have small skill trees for additional bonuses. Like Prism, for example, eventually I got a bonus on her where she could create a mirror clone of the hero next to her. So there's that puzzle side, but there's also a time management element, in that each hero takes time to travel to each job, they need some time to return to base and recover after a job, heroes can screw with each other because they're dicks, which can delay them, and they can become injured if things go seriously wrong, which puts them out of commission for a time. And then on top of all of that, Robertson can also use his skills in programming to complete jobs that require hacking, which opens a little mini game that involves sort of flicking switches and remembering key codes. It's nothing crazy, but it can get pretty intense when time limits come into play. It's all relatively simple stuff, all things considered, definitely less interesting than the narrative component, but there's enough going on here that I never found myself getting bored, at least for the most part. And even when it did get a little laborious, a part of me thinks that's kind of the point, to really share in Robertson's pain of having to do the busy work as the guy in the chair instead of being out on the field. I do have a couple of grievances with it though. The first is that I feel like the choice consequence part of the game could have been woven in better. Maybe that comes into play later, but so far, the only way my narrative choices have had an impact here is that characters who are pissed off at me will sometimes just refuse to take specific jobs. That's cool, but I was kind of hoping for more. Like I was kind of expecting my choices to also interact with the stat system in some way. It feels a bit weird that I can make my big golem man more intelligent by just putting points into that, rather than that growth happening as a result of conversations. The second is that despite how mechanically simple this part of the game is, it's surprisingly buggy. I had the whole dispatch system completely break on me like 4 or 5 times in just 4 hours, where a critical button prompt would just not appear, or my controls would just completely stop working. I'd then have to back out into the main menu and go back in, to then have to watch the entire animated scene beforehand, since there was no skip button from what I could tell, to then finally restart the whole dispatch thing. So yeah, I don't think this gameplay stuff adds a whole lot to the experience, nor does it really weigh the whole package down, except for when it bugs out. Would this have been a better game if every episode was just 1 hour of pure narrative choice consequence stuff where each dispatch intimately follows individual jobs and team members? Probably, yeah, but animation of this quality with these voice actors and the amount of extra writing required to do that would be expensive as hell. So I can understand Ad Hoc's decision to want to instead condense Robertson's day job into a simple, low-stakes gameplay sequence, and I think they've done a valiant effort here. What they've delivered is at least good enough.
We can work with this.
Bye. Good to meet you, bro.
Likewise.
Oh hey, if we unionized, would Blazer kick our ass?
You want one? Here. Fuck off.
So that's my thoughts on Dispatch based on the first 4 episodes. Obviously, I've given my fair share of criticisms on both the writing and gameplay fronts, and for that reason, I was umming and ahhing about whether I'm mixed on it or if I recommend it. But stepping back, I do think there are enough parts of this that are working for me. The gameplay stuff is nothing to write home about, but it gets the job done. I absolutely adore the animation and many of the voice performances, but most importantly, Robertson is such a fantastic lead character, and given he's the one you'll be living through and making decisions for, I think he alone makes up for much of where Dispatch is falling short at the moment. There's a free demo available if you want to get a taste for Dispatch. Otherwise, episode 1 and 2 are available today, with episodes thereafter releasing every following week in chunks of 2. And I personally will be keeping up with those new episodes week to week, because I am liking this so far, I'm keen to see where this story leads, and I recommend it to you.
Here's Here's a scary figure. Did you know that the rate of identity theft increased by 211% between 2023 and 2024, mainly due to just 5 mega breaches that leaked terabytes of personal data? If it feels like there's nothing you can do about that, well, you're wrong, because this video sponsor Incogni specializes in helping you reclaim your online data in order to protect you from identity thefts, hacks, or worse. Sure, we know that big corporations like Apple or Google have our data because we hand it over to them, but what you probably don't know is that hundreds of other companies that you've never even heard of also have your data because it's been on-sold by various data brokers. These companies can then sell your data to whomever they like, and you have absolutely no say in it. Now, the loophole here is that you can technically contact these companies and ask them to delete your data, but not only do you not know who has your data, but there are so many of these data brokers that it would be impossible for you to contact them all. That's where Incogni comes in. You sign up, you enter your details, you grant it the required permissions, and after that, Incogni does all the work for you, sending out hundreds of automated requests to reclaim your personal data. Take me for example. Incogni has sent out over 177 requests on my behalf, which has resulted in my data being removed from 171 data brokers. 171! I had absolutely no idea that 171 data brokers even had my data, and now thankfully they don't, thanks to Incogni. If I was to have submitted all those requests myself, doing all the paperwork and back and forth, it would have taken me around 128 hours, making Incogni incredibly well priced given how much value it delivers. In addition to this, Incogni also offers a custom removal option where you can tell it to remove your personal data from specific entities that may not be included in Incogni's automated removal process. Some exclusions apply here, but this gives you even more control over your personal data. It's super easy, super effective, and best of all, super affordable. You can use offer code SKILLUP at incogni.com/skillup to get 60% off an annual subscription. Take your personal data back and get a 60% discount while doing it by visiting incogni.com/skillup and using offer code SKILLUP at checkout. Thanks Incogni for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.